Welcome to Gen Z. I'm your host, Megan Grace. Hey there, this is episode 35 of Gen Z. In this episode, we're going to explore the world of entrepreneurship, specifically the side hustle. If you've been tuning in for a while, you'll remember I interviewed Haley Hoffman-Smith in season 1 to discuss Generation Z's interest and passion for entrepreneurship. There are many reasons why Gen Z young people would be interested in entrepreneurship. Flexibility, autonomy, and the ability to follow your passion are just a few reasons entrepreneurship is piquing the interests of Generation Z. A 2021 study conducted by EY found that over half of Gen Zers want to run their own business within the next 10 years. This finding is on trend with what we've not only seen in our own research, but in numerous other studies. And while many Gen Zers are interested in owning their own business at some point, some may be hesitant to dive in fully and work on building their business full-time. Enter the side hustle, or a money-making effort that people take on in addition to their employment, or in the case of many Gen Z, in addition to their academic commitments. The side hustle has been a way that some are getting the taste of the benefits of entrepreneurship. Some use the side hustle model as a way to test the waters of entrepreneurship. Some find the side hustle out of a passion and then turn their passion project into a full form of employment. And that is exactly the path of my guest in this episode. Sammy Handler is an emerging artist and the CEO and founder of KicksBySammy, a customs accessory company featuring her bold and fun hand-drawn designs. Customers choose the name, initials, or phrase they want to be featured on each item for a one-of-a-kind personalized touch. KicksBySammy offers home goods, fine art, fashion accessories, and more, with collections themed around back to school, college, camp, bridal, etc. The brand boasts statement-making must-haves and gifts for any age and occasion. KicksBySammy started with Sammy hand-painting her Keds sneakers during her freshman year at the University of Maryland and receiving tons of positive feedback, which became a sneaker painting side hustle, and then it turned into a full-time career. Launching KicksBySammy at age 21 as a manifestation of her love for drawing and fashion. Sammy's expanded the company into a booming customization business across various categories and has collaborated with celebrities, influencers, and corporations like NBCU, CBRE, and Sweet Spot.
Welcome to The Human Role, your go-to podcast where HR and payroll collide with innovation. I'm your host, Tiana Neal, and every month I'm diving deep with industry experts and change makers, bringing you real talk insights, practical tips, and fresh takes you won't hear anywhere else. Whether you're a leader, practitioner, or just curious about the latest HR and payroll trends, I've got you covered. Ready to roll with the best? Tune in for fresh perspectives, actionable tips, and the knowledge you need to roll forward with confidence. Subscribe now and let's transform the way you work.
I'm so excited to welcome my new friend Sammy to the podcast, and we're going to have a great conversation today about the side hustle turning into the full-time hustle, turning into entrepreneurship, and this beautiful journey that she has had with her business, KicksBySammy. And as much as I want to give this grand intro, I'm actually going to turn it over to her because she's going to start to tell us a little bit more about her story. So Sammy, thank you so much for being here. Welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. So as you said, my name is Sammy. I'm 26 years old. I graduated from the University of Maryland in 2017, where I studied psychology and business, and I'm currently the artist and founder of KicksBySammy, which is based in New York City. And KicksBySammy is basically your one-stop shop for all things custom accessories. So you go on my website, you can pick a product, one of our hand-drawn designs, and then you can personalize any of the products with your name, initials, or phrase. And as people started to really recognize my hand-drawn designs more, I started to get a lot of outreach from different corporate clients. So now I do a whole line of promotional products, murals, events, and so much more.
That is so amazing. So before we get into your entrepreneurship journey, tell me a little bit about how you got into art, because I know that you studied psychology and business is what you said. So was art just like this thing that was yearning in you and you're like, I just love to doodle and that's how we're at today? Like, how did we get there? So
basically the business, or more of a hobby, actually started in 2013, which was my senior year of high school. But I'd always loved to draw, but it was never something I was really like known for, quote unquote, in high school. I just always did it as a hobby, kind of a side hustle that no one really knew about. Just took a few art classes and always would be doodling on shoes or on paper and pen with a paper and pen in class. So as I approached my senior year heading into college, I started to customize shoes, which I found in my closet. So I kind of started to hone in on the artistic ability that I had, and I posted them on social media. So as you see with the name KicksBySammy, that's how it started with shoes. And I posted them and people fell in love. And I was really surprised because no one had really known that I was artistic. So it's kind of how I started showing it off to the world through this account. And everyone could see that I had a little shoe business beginning.
So tell me a little bit more about, I've looked at your kind of some of your stuff and I'm sure our listeners are going to go check it out, but tell me what your art style kind of is. I think it's got a lot of fun and playfulness to it, but how would you describe some of, if you had a style for your art, what would you describe that as?
I think it has evolved a lot over time. When it first started with the shoes in 2013, it was a lot of just like line doodles, like the typical doodles you would see on paper in class, and then it kind of started expanding into more of a graffiti pop art style. And I love just mixing a lot of different bright colors and cool different icons. Kind of evolves as the styles and trends evolve. So just seeing what the tweens are into and the kids, adults, I try to target all different ages, so that there's something for everyone.
So what I love about this, and I didn't think we would get into this kind of discussion, is what we're seeing with Gen Z is, first of all, you all are very multifaceted people that, you had what many would say a very traditional kind of college career path experience, psychology, business, very common majors. I'm sure at one point you're like, I'm going to go into either of these. And really you have gone into business, but all this meanwhile, even in high school, you had this kind of hobby and this passion for art. And I think that is so classically Gen Z, of being very interested in some of this more traditional mindset, but then also what else is lurking in these hobbies, and that there are so many different things that your generation is interested in and is passionate about. And I find that to be really amazing, because I think we also see it with some like big time celebrities where you're like, I'm also a singer, I'm also an actor, I also have a clothing line, and seeing their interests kind of diverge into different areas and allowing people to be passionate about more than one thing, I think is really liberating too. Like, you're allowed to be caring about certain things and other things. Like, you don't need to be boxed into this one area. So I think that's really cool that you went after something that made you happy. And it was kind of a happy accident, not to quote Bob Ross, but it really did turn into a happy accident for you.
I was about to say, like, when I was younger, I never really saw entrepreneurship as like the journey I was going to take, or did I even know it was feasible. So it was really interesting, kind of, not that it did fall upon me, but that I was able to then hone in on it and actually make it a reality and began to scale it and expand it over time.
I do find that some of my favorite entrepreneurs and the people that truly do their very best with entrepreneurship don't ever see it for themselves. I find that very often the ones that go into it and do it successfully don't see it as their career path, and then they find it because I think passion leads them there. So let's talk a little bit about that. So you started kind of doodling and designing these awesome shoes, and people are like, that's pretty cool. And it all kind of started on social media. What was the next step in your entrepreneurship journey? When did you kind of wake up and realize, like, oh my goodness, this is a business and I'm going to make money and people are going to pay me to do something that I love? So walk us through your entrepreneurship journey.
Yeah. So I feel like when I was doing the shoes, I thought it was great, so much fun, but I didn't really even start to consider until junior year that this is actually something that could turn something bigger than what it was. So throughout my freshman, sophomore year, it was just a great way to make money, have a side hustle. And as I actually started to take all the business classes junior and senior year, that's when I realized, I was like, okay, this could turn something way bigger than what it is. And I started to actually realize I did have artistic abilities. I never really like embraced that I did until like junior and senior year. So I never even took art classes throughout college. I just kept doing it on my own and building my own skills because I just wouldn't like embrace the fact that I was pretty decent at it. So as I hit junior and senior year, I started to really think, how can this business be scalable? Because I knew drawing on sneakers wasn't it for me personally. I just didn't really see it as something that could expand to the point where it could be my full-time career. So I wanted to find a way to still keep that art element, which is what I enjoyed so much, but actually not just be a starving artist. So that is when I started looking at manufacturers. How could I mass produce my designs in a way that is still creative, personalized, but also can hit a way larger audience? So that's when I started making the samples of blankets, pillows, towels, something that didn't need sizing like clothing, but could be universal. So that's why I picked accessories. And I started having different templates where people could then personalize the name. So it was just in and out. I had a variety that represented baby, teens, camps, a million different things, college, so that there was something really for everyone to put their art on a different product. And I started seeing that people were actually loving it, and it just has expanded from there.
I mean, I love everything about your story because it's like so classically like I'm going to teach myself something, and you taught yourself business, but you've really refined your art and found a way to make, like, I just love that you are doing what we're seeing so many young people do, which is go after something they love and use what they've got, but be willing to learn and grow. And I think that that's a really amazing testament. I'm sure that that's going to carry you far into your career. You mentioned the side hustle, and that's where we're seeing a lot of people within your generation and within Generation Z gravitating towards this idea of a side hustle. And we're seeing whether it is people, making money off of drawing on sneakers, or we're seeing people create small businesses out of their dorm room, or doing all these variety of different types of things that in addition to. And I would love for you to kind of talk a little bit more about how you've seen that present within your peer group. Why do you think Gen Z is so attracted to this idea of a side hustle?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking back and I think it's just feeling a greater sense of responsibility and kind of personal achievement in your own work. I feel like a lot of people in their 9 to 5 job might not feel super fulfilled, and obviously they need a paycheck, they need to make money, but it might not be exactly what they're passionate about or love to do. So they're trying to find a way that, obviously it could be great with side hustle to make extra money, but also to do something that they feel they're making a difference in society. I feel like our generation is very much like, let's make a difference, let's have a purpose. And I think having a side hustle makes you feel that way, and that you're actually doing something that matters and that people will recognize. So I think it's an external and internal thing for Gen Z. And I think it's great because obviously entrepreneurship isn't for everyone, but having a side hustle is a great outlet. Like, it doesn't have to be your full-time career, but it's an amazing outlet to do something that you're passionate about and that maybe makes you feel more relaxed or de-stresses you. And I think it's amazing when people can start to realize that they might have a passion outside of work.
Absolutely. And I think that the other cool thing about a side hustle, and I would love to get your thoughts on this, is that for those who are kind of like interested in entrepreneurship or interested in contract work or interested in going freelance, a side hustle is a really great way to kind of test those waters. For you tested that through college, and there was a little bit of that like kind of safety net. You're still in college, you're still planning your career, but you got a taste for it, I think, a lot earlier than some other people do. And you were able to kind of take your steps and figure out, where do I need to grow? Where do I want to go with all of this? And so, would you agree that you think that there's some attractiveness of a side hustle to Gen Z because of the ability to kind of try on different hats when it comes to that?
Yeah, I was going to say, you don't want to feel trapped in your career. And I think it definitely can give you a taste, and you can experiment with different things. So you don't have to be 100% committed just because you start one side hustle. If it fails or you're not into it, you can just start something else. So I think it gives people a little bit of a way to dabble into different industries maybe, or different career paths. And it ultimately could have you totally change your career path. It might not be taking that on full time, but it might be just switching careers in general.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about entrepreneurship. Your entrepreneurship journey, despite, you not thinking it was official for a while, even though you definitely were making money off of it and you were your own boss. I think those are the two definitions that I use for entrepreneurship. There's a lot of people in Gen Z that are really attracted to entrepreneurship. And I think it's great because in my mind, entrepreneurs are solving creative problems and they're filling in niches for people, and finding answers for people. So like, I'm all for people being entrepreneurial. I'd love to hear about some of your lessons in entrepreneurship, whether they were challenges you faced or just some things you picked up along the way. What kind of advice would you have for other young people within your generation that are interested in pursuing entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I think a big thing is social media has impacted this a lot, where I feel like people sometimes have a false reality of entrepreneurship and glorify it a bit. So that's something I've learned throughout my journey, that people think sometimes that this is like the easy way out and that you get to make your own hours, you can do whatever you want, you can travel, you can do this. And it's totally a false reality. It's 10 times harder than working a 9 to 5 job. In, I mean, my opinion, not that I've worked 9 to 5 jobs and internships, obviously, but it's so much more. You have to work nights, you have to work weekends. Basically, entrepreneurship is yourself. Like the two, my business and me are basically a combination at this point. So you're never not able to look at an email. You always have to be on your game. Everything is a networking um, opportunity. So I feel like that's something that people don't see in the entrepreneurship journey. And sometimes social media will only show all the amazing things, photo shoots, events you get to go to, a collaboration you're working on, but they don't see all the hustle behind it, and that every single cent you make has to be worked for. So if you do decide to take that vacation, you're not necessarily getting paid. So I think a 9 to 5 job is definitely a little bit more of a cushion. So you have to realize that if you want to go into entrepreneurship, that mentally, physically, and financially, it's a big obligation.
Absolutely. And I think that you bring up a really good point of the cushion, and that some people might be like, oh, that's so offensive to people that work a 9 to 5 job, but there is less risk there. If you don't do an okay job at your 9 to 5 job, you might find another employer, your employer might find another person to do your job. If you don't do a good job at entrepreneurship, you pointed out the big risk that is there. You kind of don't have that safety net. And I think there has been a little bit of this glorification of entrepreneurship, as you pointed out through social media. No one's posting at 3 a.m. talking about how tired they are working on that one thing, but it's bright and shiny and sunshine the next day. When it, as you point out, the photo shoot or the really cool work trip. I've certainly lived that life as well. People are like, oh, your life is so fun. I was like, yeah, no one said it was really fun. Like when I was up till midnight coding data, nobody was pointing out how sexy of a lifestyle it was then, but that's absolutely right. There's pluses and minuses to both. Absolutely.
Because people will come to me and be like, oh, you can take this break. You don't have to work right now. Like you're your own boss. You make your own hours. And I'm like, but if I'm not working, then I'm not getting a project done, or I'm missing out on an opportunity that might be coming up. So you kind of always have to realize that from a different perspective as well.
Absolutely. I know we've talked about some of the potential stresses of being in entrepreneurship. What's something that you are most proud of yourself for taking this art side hustle, turning it into a full-fledged business? What are you most proud of in that journey that you've had?
I'm proud that I started something from nothing and turned it into something that now a lot of people recognize. So I think it's just realizing that you built something from the ground up. And obviously it's taken a few years and it still has a bunch of years to go. But just knowing that this was just a pair of sneakers that I painted and that it's turned into this whole business where I have products that I sell all across the world now, that I work with amazing, huge corporate clients like NBC and CBRE. And it's just kind of crazy just to think about that, like 17-year-old girl, like I would have never guessed at 26 I would still be doing this. This would be my full-time job, and that I would have never worked like a typical corporate job. Like I did not expect this path for me at all. So it's just crazy to think back, and like I would have motivated myself even earlier if I knew that this was a possibility.
I got chills thinking that, you were 17 when you first started doing this, and you're 26 and you're turning 27. You've been doing KicksBySammy for 10 years.
I guess it will be 10 years next year. I just turned 26, so I have a full year.
Okay, you have an extra. You've got
2 weeks ago.
Okay. Okay. So you've got time. You've got time to plan a really big birthday party for KicksBySammy, and I'm sure it's going to be the coolest party.
Well, I have 2 birthdays, I guess, because I started it the summer going into freshman year of college, but it didn't become an established like business until senior year of college. So I have 2 kind of starting dates. It was originally like established, I guess then, but didn't become a full-fledged like full-time career until I graduated.
Well, they're both important milestones to be proud of nonetheless. Do you still have your first pair that you designed when you were 17?
Oh, I do. My mom, like, she's like, we need to keep these. What if they need to be in a museum one day? So they're in my family's house, so they have them. So we'll keep them safe.
Moms are good about that. They're kind of hoarders. They're hoarders and you don't know why they're hoarders. And then your 10-year milestone is going to come up and you're like, that mom, she's always forward thinking. She knew.
It's crazy. And then I look back at them like, how did this even get me like a following in the beginning? Like, who wanted these? Like, because it's so crazy how much even my art has evolved. And it was like these 2 logos with a bunch of just random doodles, and it's just crazy to me that's how it started.
Someone believed in your vision, and that's really important. I look back at my old writing and I'm like, who wrote this? Which girl wrote this? Because it wasn't me. Because that was not my brain. You probably look back to some of your old designs and you're like,
I guess it shows our
It also
progress.
shows that you're a different person. You have a very expressive job and your life has changed a lot, I'm sure. And so how you express and the things that come out in your designs have probably also evolved over time. So, well, Sammy, this has been such a great conversation. I love being around creatives, even though like I can barely draw a line straight and a circle round. But I love being around people that can do amazing things. I'm always fascinated by people that do things differently than I do because I think it keeps our life just so entertaining. But I ask every one of my guests because I do think that this is the most important question I ask anybody that comes on this podcast, whether they're Gen Z or not. But what is your favorite thing about Generation Z? What's your favorite thing about your peers that you share a generation with?
I don't know if this is agreed, but I think we're very motivated. I think, as you were saying before, I think people really do want to make a change and kind of show themselves and express themselves. And I just think everyone is super expressive and able to be more comfortable in their own skin and kind of be exactly who they want to be. So I feel like a lot of people want to show off either through their career or through social media or through how they dress, their style, everything. And that I feel like we're a lot more open and accepting. And I just love that hopefully people feel like they can be themselves. So that's what I personally feel. And I hope that the rest of Gen Z does as well, which I know a bunch of people that I know feel that way, but that's how I feel about the whole.
I think that you're absolutely correct. I sometimes wish I was part of Gen Z, and I get to see that from the amazing work that you all do. You're incredibly motivated, and I've been trying to think about it, and maybe you just helped me have a breakthrough, but I've been trying to figure out why Gen Z has such fervor. And they're going after these really big problems. And I think it's because they've done such a good job of accepting themselves and others that they've removed the societal pressure to fit in. And so now they're just like, okay, let's just focus on making society better. Since we're all here and we're on the same team and we all like each other, why don't we work together to do something good? And maybe that's a big piece of it. I think what you pointed out is this acceptance is really important.
I feel like we're kind of rebelling against old school, which old school has its like perks, of course, but I think we're trying to get a new spin on things and kind of have people look at things from a different perspective. That everything doesn't have to be exactly like point to point. This is how it goes. Like we challenge things and we don't think there has to be a specific path for everything.
That's why I always say that Gen Z is going to do good things for our world if we just let them. Like if we just let them, good things will happen. So, well, Sammy, thank you so much for being here. Before we go, I know that people can find your stuff online, but if they're looking to follow along, potentially check out some of your work, where should they go?
Yeah, for ordering, KicksBySammy.com, and Sammy is SAMMY. At KicksBySammy Instagram, at KicksBySammy TikTok, at KicksBySammy Facebook. So all at KicksBySammy, easy. And yeah, go shoot us a follow.
Wonderful. Well, I've got a good friend. I wonder if she'll be listening to this. Her name is also Sammy, and she's an SAMI, and she always has to like tell people SAMI because, you know.
Well, there's a million different ways to spell it now.
I know. I'm a Megan, and there's like 15 ways to spell Megan. So I get it. I totally get it. But Sammy, thank you so much for being here. It's been an absolute delight to spend time with you and to learn more about your story. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great speaking with you.
Hi, we're Meg and Amy from The Meg and Amy Show. We're not only tech execs and big picture thinkers, we're also best friends.
We're curious learners. And on this podcast, we're challenging the status quo and activating the future.
And we're going to give advice about work and leadership, right, Meg?
You know, we can't help ourselves. But this podcast is about exploring possibility, not being right.
That sounds refreshing.
For more, tune in to The Meg and Amy Show.
What I love about Sammy's story is how perfectly it frames the story of the side hustle and the role it can play in the modern economy. Sammy found something she loved and over time learned how to create a business. She's a prime example of Gen Z's entrepreneurial mindset and models the path that many in her generation are taking. She's blending creativity and expression with business and innovation. A big thank you to Sammy for joining me in this episode and sharing her story of entrepreneurship. And thank you for tuning into this episode. As always, if you enjoyed this episode, please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. This not only helps me improve the podcast, but it helps other listeners find the podcast. We are getting near the end of this season and only have one more episode left. However, I am going to be starting to plan new episodes and topics for the next season soon. I started this podcast as a way to explore research findings through the lived experiences of Generation Z and those who impact the lives of Gen Z. There's no shortage of questions about Gen Z or topics to explore. So if you have a topic you're interested in or a member of Gen Z that I need to chat with, please head over to my website, meganmgrace.com, or find me on social media to drop me a quick note. Thank you again for stopping by for this episode. Let's continue this conversation and we'll chat soon.